How are you, Larry?
Good. How was your trip?
It's long.
Hey, Paul, when did you graduate,
Yeah,
80?
I didn't get enough
80?
time to really change anything, but
Yeah, I was with your brother.
there was a bad
Missing
Oh, no,
two
there's
slowdowns. One on 65
Zoom
that
call
was a
tonight for
parking
this,
lot,
so.
and that took
You
a
got
while.
some-
One on 71, on
Duma just
65
posted
was
it
a
from
road.
my
It was
house,
There's 20 ice, you're in the ice.
last couple days.
and it looked like it was in a
Yeah.
I'm in a monster. I'm in a Facebook.
I was up here earlier
It's like a
today.
tiny white-tail
You
deer
know, it
something,
took
and
me
I saw a poor giant, and it was
about,
there,
you know,
yeah.
because I don't
Beautiful looking rat.
I don't generally go over the speed limit.
Yeah, we had to
There's
wear
not much
these
else you can
spikes
sit
on.
and talk.
People just,
I know
When you
it's
came
set my
here,
cruise
the
is
tires would
about,
get muddy.
what's that?
I know it's set my cruise about 4
This one.
miles per hour above the speed
Yeah,
limit.
that's about what I did. Yeah. 4 or 5, that's it.
Yeah.
But more likely not.
My daughter did 7.5 hours.
You'll get looks, but.
Is that right?
Yeah, she drives too fast.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, hard copy just in case you did it.
Nope, appreciate that.
Yep. Yep. We've got Tyler over there.
What you want to do when we're good to go.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, I have second.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Dustin to give me the go-ahead.
What's up, Larry? I do.
Oh, this is comfy weather for me.
When I got home, my house was 53.
Fire up the wood burner already?
No, I didn't have time. I just got home.
Oh, where were you?
I was in Kentucky.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. All right, very good.
All right, at this time, I would like to call the Springfield Local Schools Board of Education October meeting to order. Chris, can we please have the roll call?
Mr. Lance?
Here.
Mr. Hess?
Here.
Mr. Petrie? Here. Mrs. Dodson?
Here,
Mr. Hofer?
Here.
Everybody is present. At this time, I'd like to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Item number 4 on the agenda is contemplated employment for Beth Levitt. And I have a statement that I am going to read. Board President Statement. This meeting is being conducted by a majority of the members of Springfield Local School District Board of Education pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 3309.345. The purpose of the law and this meeting is to provide members of the public with an opportunity to express individual responses to the board's contemplated employment of Beth Levitt in the position of foreign language teacher. The statute is silent with respect to the way in which this meeting should be conducted and appears to leave such matters to the discretion of the Board of Education. Accordingly, this meeting will be conducted as informally as possible. Each person will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board. The total amount of time for this meeting will be 15 minutes. The board will not condone any statements that are not based upon fact. Statements must be limited to the contemplated employment. Finally, as president of the board, I reserve the right to restrict inappropriate comments and the general procedure of the meeting. The members of the Board of Education will not entertain questions, respond to comments, or interrupt the public's opportunity to express concerns or make statements. Each person addressing the board shall identify himself, herself, and his or her address. This meeting is required by law and is the right of the public, which this board understands and respects. And I'd like to remind everybody that this pertains strictly to item number 4, contemplated employment. Are there any comments? All right, seeing none, we don't need any type of motion, I assume? Okay. Move on to item number 5, presentations. 5.1, presentation of plaque honoring Bob Dylan.
Good evening and welcome to the Springfield Local Schools Board of Education meeting and our new transportation department. Thank you. We're proud of the transportation department and the opportunity to hold a board meeting here. In my 30 years with the district, this has never been done. So I'm so excited about this opportunity to present this facility here that we have. The board owns now this piece of property. But tonight's a special night that we want to honor, and we have a plaque up here for one of our past employees, Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan passed away at home surrounded by his family on February 6th of 2020. He was born in August of 1937 in Boomer, West Virginia. Bob was survived by his wife, Judy. She's sitting here in the front row. Bob's daughter, Michelle, and her husband, Paul. Bob was preceded in death with his parents, Louis and Elizabeth Dylan, his son, Scott Dylan, and his sister, Julia. Bob was a graduate of Springfield High School, class of '56. He served 6 years in the Ohio Army National Guard. Bob was employed as a diesel mechanic for PIE Trucking for 28 years.
Well, really?
Then he worked for Springfield Local Schools Transportation Department as a bus mechanic for 13 years. Bob could fix anything. With a piece of chewing gum, a rubber band, and a paper clip, Bob could fix it. There were times that when I needed some work done in my personal car, I'd take it over to Bob's house on the weekend, he'd crawl underneath it, and he'd make it right. The guy was incredible. He was the best storyteller, a talented musician, craftsman, and he found passion in the later years singing, and that's how Bob and I met. So I want to tell a little story. The old bus garage and the administration building used to be right next to each other behind the high school, if you remember that, in the parking lot there. Well, at lunchtime, I would hear Bob was set up, he brought in his sound machine, and he would play some music and he would start singing. So I kind of enjoy some music too, and I went over there, and I would see Bob, and we would start doing some songs, just doing some songs, singing together. Well, soon that evolved into, I would go over Bob and Judy's house, my wife and I, and we would start practicing. We put together some songs and start practicing them. And it kind of evolved into, Bob started booking these gigs for us. We had gigs on New Year's Eve, different venues. And we would go there and do these songs. And it was just great. It actually evolved at one point where I had my wife, my daughter, Bob, all singing together on stage. It was incredible. And we'd go over to the house and Judy would prepare all the snacks and the food, and we got to meet Bob's family, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience, one that I'll never forget. But if you ever had the chance to meet Bob Dylan, you'd never forget it. He always had a big smile on him, never complained about anything, was always upbeat. And when you go over to his house and you get to meet his family, you can see that they're all the same way. They're all just positive, good people. And it's incredible. It was incredible. So, as Bob's health was deteriorating, I went over to see him a couple times, and it was actually, it was about 5 days before he passed. I went over to see him, and he was at home, and we all knew it was coming, what was happening. Bob knew it, and I got next to his bed. He was in a medical bed there, and they had him in like the dining room. Had him set up there, and I had a chance to have a conversation with him. I talked with him a little bit, and I had my phone with me, and I had some songs ready to go because I wanted to play some songs. And Bob and I did a lot of different songs together, but we did some country western songs and some Waylon and Willie, and so I brought up my phone and I started playing some music and started singing an old Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings song, and Bob started singing with me. Bob started, this was, I just checked the date on it, it was February 1 of 2020. That was 5 days before he passed. Bob just loved people. He had a big smile on and he was singing right up until the end. Bob was a great man. We have a plaque here, and I'm going to call Judy Dillon up. Judy, come on up for a second. This is Bob's wife. Bob and Judy were married over 58 years. Those are 58 great years, too. But I got so many great memories with Judy, and I'm glad she's here today. When I had the chance to talk about this opportunity to do something like this, and this plaque right here, this nice picture of Bob here in the year of service. We're going to hang this over in the other section of the health and transportation depot for everyone to see that we're out honoring Bob Dylan and his fine work for the Springfield local schools, class of '56, Judy Dillon, and all the work that she's done. Great people. One more round of applause here for the Dillons. And all the families here, the families in the front row here. The neighbors, big applause for neighbors. All right, thank you. Judy, I want to thank you for your work too. You'll just hang over here in the garage here for us always to see. So thank you. We appreciate it. Yes.
I would like to say one thing here. Bob was a good Christian man. He loved the Lord. And I'm sure the bus driver all knew that. And he worked with so many of them. But he used to torment them too. He wasn't perfect by any means, but he was a great man. He had integrity. He was a good husband, a good father. He loved Springfield. He loved this job here. He trained David. He trained David. David came on board when he was 18, I think. So he trained David, who's running the garage now. He came in as a apprentice, really, and taught him everything he knew, and then of course he's learned things beyond that. But Bob was a fantastic man. Just like Chuck said, he was awesome. The children, all of the children coming in honor, you know what they tell me? They want a husband like a grandfather. So he was fabulous, and I hope if you got to know him, you know what I'm saying. He loved the children. He loved taking care of the children. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey Chuck, to tail in on that, I think some congratulations goes out to the class of 56 who really got the ball rolling for that.
That's correct, yeah. Class of 56, we want to recognize those fine folks for helping make this whole program work.
Yeah.
Yes.
The gentleman from class of 56 Bob's class, his name is Juan Conant.
Harnack.
And he is the gentleman that pursued this. So I did mention his name. But they were all class of 56 and all of these people. They couldn't be here because they're all, 84, 85. And all fell and broke their hips and how that goes. But
Yeah.
their hearts are with us.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you, class of 56, Springfield Local Schools.
Thank you again. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Paul, nice seeing you again. Yep.
She's coming up.
See you, Judy. Nice seeing
Bye-bye.
you again.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
get to thank all of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Item 5.2, National School Bus Safety Week from the transportation staff.
Good evening. The week of October 18 through 22 has been designated as National School Bus Safety Week. This week serves as a reminder to motorists, students, and school bus drivers of the important role that they each have in ensuring children's safety. School Bus Safety Week reminds us the importance of ensuring our students arrive safely to school and back home again each day. School buses remain the safest mode of transportation for students, and with motorists, parents, and students working together, we can continue to make this a safe year. This evening, there's going to be a presentation on National School Bus Safety Week, and I'll yield to that in just a moment. First of all, I'd like to introduce some of our transportation staff that we have here this evening. First, we have Mr. Michael Guttrell, the location supervisor, in the back there, and Evelyn Halterman must have known I was going to introduce people and stepped away. There she is. She's our wonderful dispatcher. And here in the front we have Melinda Hamilton, one of our bus drivers, and our safety coordinator here that's going to give the presentation this afternoon. Melinda?
Good evening, everyone. I do want to say something a little bit about Bob because I was talking to Judy, and we know that there's tons and tons of stories about Bob. But just this week alone, our bus drivers were bringing leaf blowers to work here so that they could sweep their bus with them, because it's so much easier to use a leaf blower. And I thought of Bob Dylan because Bob Dylan would use the air hoses to sweep a bus. So he always kept us laughing. And yes, he did give us a hard time. He would come down to the lunchroom to eat with us, and he would always talk about things like fear factor and all these really gross things as you're sitting there trying to eat lunch. So he tried to get to you that way too. But for anybody who knew Bob, they knew he was a wonderful human being. He was an awesome mechanic. He was a wonderful man, and Judy was correct. You knew that he did love the Lord. Well, tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about school bus safety. A lot of people don't know what the bus drivers actually do when they come to work every morning. They think we just come here, get our bus, get in and go, and start picking up the kids. Most of us, our mornings start about 5:45 to 6:15 in the morning, and we come in and we do what we call a pre-trip on our bus. So we'll get on and we'll check all the engine compartments and check the oils, fluids, and things like that to make sure that there's no leaks or any problems with that. Then we get in and we actually do a brake test on the bus to make sure that the brakes are working properly. We check all the warning lights and the reds and the ambers warning lights to make sure all of our lights are working. We check all the brake lights and tail lights and that to make sure everything's working. On top of that, on the inside, we check to make sure all of our buttons and gauges are all working properly. We check all of our emergency windows and seats to make sure everything's secure and working properly there too. I know I sound like a trainer, working properly, because that's what we train, make sure it's all working properly. So we do this regardless of what the weather's like. We can come out here, and before we can even get to our bus, we might be cleaning a lot of snow off our buses just so we are able to open up the hood of them so we can get started. It doesn't matter if it's below 0 out, and when, you know, Mr. Students here doesn't cancel school and we have to come in anyway, we still have to go and do our job and do our performance and make sure that bus is safe to go. On top of that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the school lights, because the school lights are very confusing to a lot of people. When do you stop? When do you not stop? When we are driving down the road, the law says that we are to activate our amber lights 300 feet in advance. So that means before we get to a student, we're going to activate our ambers. We have a button that we push that activates them. Once we stop, we pull the brake, we take the bus out of gear, and then when we open the door, that is what activates our red lights. Our stop sign comes out, our crossing gate comes out, and the red lights come on then. We do not have any control over that except to open and close the door. Once we close the door, then that cancels the lights. So people need to know, kind of treat it like, I tell people, kind of treat it like a stop sign, a traffic light, I mean. When you're coming up to a traffic light and you see that it's yellow, that doesn't mean speed up, go fast, and get through it. That means this is a school bus, this is children that we're dealing with, that we would appreciate that you guys be prepared to stop. A lot of people get confused, but yellow means caution and means be prepared to stop. Sometimes people stop and they're right in the way of maybe a section that will be crossing the students, so we might wave you on to say, please go on, so that we can cross the kids across the street. That is also, if you are on 3 lanes or less, then that means that you have to stop if you're coming in the opposite direction of the school bus. If you are in 4 lanes, then no, you do not. Like over here on Canton Road, there's a 4-lane road. So anybody traveling the same direction as the bus is, you do have to stop. But anybody coming the opposite direction, they do not have to stop for the school bus. So I know that was just a quick presentation, but I know those are the things that are the most concerning about people, most questions that I have. Anybody else have any questions that you think I should address?
You know, Melinda, when you asked me about lights and you covered that, sometimes people are wondering, and I've seen them scratch their heads, students walked off the bus, the lights are still red. Why are they still red? Because we want to make sure that the student is in their what?
They're standing in their safety zone, their designated spot of safety. And lots of times you might have 2 or 3 students that are getting off. You might have a couple that are going over to the right side. You might have one that's crossing the street. We need to account for all the kids. By law, we have to count the kids as they get on the bus, count the kids as they get off the bus at their stops, and we have to account for them outside of the bus. We don't want them walking back towards us. We don't want them, all of a sudden you take your eye off of that student for a second because you're crossing this one. You look back and they're gone. Well, you want to make sure that they're standing in their designated area of safety, so this way you can account for them. They didn't go and run and lost a paper and try to go up underneath the bus or around the bus in any way. So before our bus moves, we have to account for all the children that just got off our bus to make sure that they're not in our area that they can get run over or hit. So,
Melinda, can you talk a little bit about the time and training that goes into training a bus driver before they can even get behind the wheel?
yes, I can. It's very time consuming. A lot of people think, you know, you can just come in a couple weeks, you're going to go for your CDL test down to a test site. It usually takes a couple of months on the average to do a test. You come in, you have an intense background check. You have to get your temporary driver's license just like you would if you were getting your temps when you were 16. But you have 4 different tests that you have to take along with that. So once you get your temps, then you come in, you have a physical, you have background checks, you have drug screens. And that's just before we even decide to get you behind the wheel of the bus to train you. Now, I did talk about pre-trip for a little bit a little bit ago. The CDL test examiners, when you get your license or when you go for your CDL test, you have a pre-trip that you have to do, but not just looking at the parts. You have to name all the parts. You have to say what would be wrong with them, the different descriptions that if you would look at it, and then describe what defects you would look and find. And that usually takes about 30 minutes for them to do. Then they have skills tests, just like you did when you were taking your temps test when you were 16 and get your driver's license. You have what we call straight line backing on a bus. You have offsets on a bus where you have to offset the bus and make sure you fit it in between the cones. You have an alley dock, and then you also have parallel parking that you do. Not just, I see someone like, no, I'm not doing parallel parking. And it sounds difficult, but it really, we teach you, we have good trainers, but you will do a parallel parking either on the passenger side, and now the latest thing is you can do a parallel parking on the driver's side too. So you have to parallel park on either side. And then you do an actual road test, which comes along with the procedures of railroad tracks, pickup and drop off procedures that we do for the state of Ohio, along with just a general driving behavior. And then you have a class that you take for the state, which takes usually about 5 days, and a test that you have to take at the end of that along with the test. So this is very time consuming. So it's not like someone can just walk in and say, hey, I want to be a school bus driver. We're going to say, good. And we do need school bus drivers. We are in desperate need. There is a national shortage, and there's also a shortage here at our bus garage too for Springfield. But it takes time, and that's why there is such a shorthanded, and they're just then substitute bus drivers. We train them and they become subs. So it's difficult, it's time consuming. So.
I just wanted to point out, Melinda, especially this time of year where it stays darker later into the mornings, that not only do drivers have to be vigilant for the school buses, but they also have to be vigilant for the children that might be waiting outside 5 or 10 minutes for the school bus at the end of their street or at the end of their driveway. It's going to be hard to see those kids when it stays darker so late into the mornings.
It is, and this year, as everybody knows, and a lot of parents out there, we've had a difficult year. This year more so than even last year. We've had to double up on routes. We've had a lot of subs. We have, just even today, I went and did my high school route, came back and did another high school route. So we're running late, we're running behind. And I just like to say thank you to all the parents. I have wonderful parents, and they've been very understanding and very helpful when I come up and say, sorry, we're running late today. And I like to say thank you to the parents for being understanding, because it is a difficult time for us right now. We usually don't have this kind of problem, but this is the first time. I've been a bus driver for 26 years. This is the first time that we've ever had to go through this and cancel routes and change things up. We've never done that before.
Thank you.
Melinda, can you mention the evacuation drills that we'll be conducting this week?
Yes, by the state of Ohio requires us to do evacuation drills on the bus. And it's very similar to what I tell the kids. It's very similar to your fire drills that you do at school. So this way, if there is an emergency, the children know that this is what we need to do to evacuate on the school bus. And what we'll do is we do it in one day, and the children all get together. Ahead of time, us bus drivers are already telling the kids, who's our children sitting in the back? Well, you guys are the ones that are maintaining the door. You guys are the ones that are helping the children hop out the back. You're the one that's going to count the kids. You're the line leader. We already have those things set in place depending on where the seating charts of the kids. So we have them set up so that they know what they're doing. By high school now, they all know what they're doing. So we're going to pull over and we're going to say, in a safe spot, then we all, as a group, we do our buses in the morning. We're going to do bus drill evacuations, and we'll go through the procedures, and the law requires us to make sure that everybody evacuates out the back door, everybody evacuates out the front door, and then we actually split the bus in half. So many children go out the back, so many children go out the front. That would be in case of a fire or something where we would have to evacuate it quickly. And the children like it. They think it's fun. They all want to hop out. And it never fails. Someone says, can we jump out the windows or the roof hatches? Those are the other emergency doors we have. Anything else? Okay. Again, I just want to thank the board. I know you guys later on will take a tour of our facility here. We love it. We're very thankful. We want to thank the community along with it too. Encourage people to come in, drop in, and see us. We love the facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 6, approval of minutes. It is recommended that the board approve the minutes of the regular meeting of September 21st, 2021, and the special meeting of October 5th, 2021, Exhibits 1 and 1A.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Chris, when you're ready.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie? Yes. Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 7, citizens' comments on agenda items. Citizens' comments on agenda items are welcome at this time. Participants shall be limited to 5-minute durations. Are there any comments from the citizens on agenda items tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 8, payment of bills. It is recommended that the board approve payment of bills for the month of September pending audit, Exhibit 2.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Chris?
Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie? Yes. Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 9, acceptance of financial reports. It is recommended that the board accept the financial reports from the treasurer for September 2021, Exhibits 3, 4, and 5.
So moved.
Second.
Hey, Chris, I got a question.
Yeah.
I was looking through Exhibit 4. There is one in there, it's line item 9152. It's called TOPS, Lakemore Roosevelt. Are there some funds in some of these accounts that the state would let us, because Lakemore and Roosevelt no longer exist, would they let us take that money out and move it someplace else?
You can, yeah, if, you don't need state approval if you do a fund to fund, if the funds are the same, meaning if the TOPS has a 018 or 019 fund,
Okay,
we can transfer it to a 018 or whatever fund it is, just through board resolution,
Looks like it's a 022.
okay?
yeah. That'd be good to go through and look through some of that to see if we can pull some of those funds to someplace. I mean, in some cases, they're ours. There is funds. In some cases, there's negative deficits too.
Yeah,
So,
So you're saying they can only be moved among similar funds, like it can only go to another 022 fund?
yes, yeah. If not, you have to go to the state to get approval from either the auditor or the Department of Taxation. I'm doing that right now with that building account, requesting from the state taxation department to allow, where I did the transfer before and the auditor says, well, you should probably get the approval from the tax commissioner. So that letter went out recently and I'm awaiting that response, and then you'll see another resolution to actually transfer it over.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Ready for the vote, Chris?
For number 9?
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Hofer?
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie?
Yes.
Mr. Lance?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes. Motion passes. Item number 10, personnel. It is recommended that the board approve the following personnel items. 10.1, resignation. Accept the resignation of substitute bus driver Daniel Sezier effective October 8th, 2021. 10.2, resignation. Accept the resignation of classified employee Jessica Wright from her educational aid position effective end of workday October 8th, 2021. Jessica will continue in her bus monitor position. 10.3, resignation. Accept the resignation of classified employee Jennifer Stubbs effective October 4th, 2021. 10.4, employment. Reassign classified employee Anna Marie Ross as the head custodian at Schropp Intermediate School per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure effective October 18th, 2021. 10.5, athletic supplemental contracts. Approve the following athletic supplemental contracts for the 2021-22 school year per the negotiated agreement pending proper licensure. Kevin Pletcher, varsity baseball head coach, girls, 18%. Joe Cole, junior varsity basketball coach, girls, 7%. Matt Boley, junior varsity basketball coach, girls, 7%. Jason Holmes, assistant basketball coach, girls, 4%. Reed Allen, 7th and 8th grade basketball coach, girls, 8%. Kyle Dack, varsity basketball head coach, boys, 20%. Kevin Nash, junior varsity basketball coach, boys, 14%. And then there is a typo. It looks like instead of Kyle McLean, it should be Jordan McLean, 7th and 8th grade basketball coach, boys, 10%. Dana Floyd, varsity bowling head coach, boys, 13%. Matt Graves, varsity bowling head coach, girls, 13%. Corey Tanksley, varsity wrestling head coach, 17%. Ed Suber, junior varsity wrestling coach, 12%. Breslin Walker, junior high wrestling coach, 10%. 10.6, volunteer coaches. Approve the following as volunteer coaches for the 2021-22 school year pending proper licensure. Lucas Hahn, boys basketball coach. Bill Thomas, boys basketball coach. JoJo Tays, wrestling coach. Katie Doherty, gymnastics coach. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Was that Dave?
No,
Oh, Chad.
Chad did.
Thank you.
I guess the only thing I'd say, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of details, but I'm going to miss one coach. It was a junior high girls basketball coach, because I loved at the end of the games the positive reinforcement that talked about showing up at work on time, dedication, perseverances, working through items, and instilling the games of life. And I'm going to miss that this year, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Thank you, Dave. Chris, will you please call roll?
Mr. Hofer,
Yes.
Mr. Lance,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson,
yes,
Petrie,
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes. Motion passes. Item number 11, Title I Non-Public Program Agreement, Waterloo Local. It is recommended that the board approve a Title I non-public program agreement with Waterloo Local Schools to pool dollars and provide Title I services to qualifying residents of Springfield Local School District who attend the St. Joseph School located within the Waterloo Local School District. Exhibit 6.
So moved.
You have a second?
I'll second that then.
Any questions or discussion?
That wouldn't be considered open enrollment to St. Joseph School now, would it be? It's just a
No.
school of choice?
No, these resident students are going to a private school outside of the district.
Okay.
No other questions, Chris?
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson,
yes,
Mr. Lance,
Yes.
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item 12, 2021-22 bus routes. It is recommended that the board approve the bus routes for the 2021-22 school year and authorize the superintendent or designee to make changes as necessary during the 2021-22 school year to address enrollment changes and safety issues. Exhibit 7 and 7A.
so moved,
Second that. Hey, Dustin, just to catch up, there's one of the drivers that we voted on last month for resignation. Their names are still on the bus route sheet, so just FYI.
Chris, when you're ready?
Mr. Lance,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson,
yes,
Mr. Hofer,
Yes.
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes. Motion passes. Item 13, Treasurer's Report.
Well, I'm handing out to the board, and I have a bunch of copies. What I'll do, I'll stick them right here. Anybody want one? Probably heard evaluations, hot topic in communities. We all found that out last year when all our tax bills came in. This is a little different. We employ a lawyer up from Cleveland that assists us in focusing on what we call big ticket commercial properties. And only if we determine that a recent sale price and what we call a arm's length sale price, meaning the buyer and the seller agree on the price, it's all legit. We like to stay away from repos, stuff like that, because that kind of jolts the price. It's not a true accurate figure. And what they do is they contact me and they say, okay, we have these properties, and the sale price exceeds the fiscal officer's value. And what that means is we will draft documents, contact the person that bought the property, inform them that the recent sale of that property, and let's take an example, like let's go down to number 3. The fiscal officer of Summit County valued the property at $519,000. Well, they sold it for $811,000. Quite a difference. So those are the properties that we go after. Sometimes it doesn't make the new owner happy because they're purchasing the property based, just like we all do. If we purchase a house, we look at the property taxes. Well, if the property is worth a lot more than what's on the fiscal certificate, then we do a claim. And it goes before a committee, and then the committee determines whether it's a true arms sale. They make their recommendation. The parties involved have an opportunity to bring their lawyers in, or it's typically not a lawyer for them, it's typically an appraiser, and then they act upon it. Well, this is happening a lot. I mean, this is this week's. I don't get them every week, but I get them every month. And what's nice about this is it protects us, the school district. We should receive a fair market value of the properties. Nothing more, nothing less. Fair market. And it's usually based on a recent sale, or it's based on a recent appraisal. And this happened, we benefited by the tune of $8,000 to $10,000. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if you keep doing that, we're trying in the treasurer's office to find every dime we can, because we need it. We need it. Stuff like this can save jobs. That's how I look at it. So, as you can see, if you go through the properties, there's quite a bit. Now, we don't win all of them. There's one here that I circled. It's on the second page. We're going to lose some money. Not a lot, but that happens. If a property is sold that is quite a bit less than the fiscal officer's value, then it seems more than fair that they should get relief. We typically do not like to deal with residential property for obvious reasons. If there is a huge difference, meaning if there's a house that's on the that's on the books for 100 and they sold it for 400, we'd probably look at that. But other than that, it's not wise to disrupt and make taxpayers upset. So residential usually doesn't play in the picture. Only extreme cases. It's mostly commercial properties, big ones. So next month, our 5-year forecast is going to be presented. It's quite a challenge. It's getting harder and harder, but we're almost there. I got to get a couple things straightened out from the state, and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to everybody for coming.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Item number 14, Business Manager's Report. Mr. Boswell?
Good evening. A little over, or almost, 2 years ago, many of us stood out here in the back of this property during the groundbreaking ceremony for this facility. That was on November 15th, 2019. Since then, as we sit here today, the facility has obviously been completed. We moved in July of 2020. This is a 7,987 square foot facility. It consists mainly here of the 3 maintenance bays that we're in. Behind us, on the other side of this bus here, is a drive-through wash bay. There's office space, storage space, and driver meeting space on the other side of these walls here, which after the meeting here this evening, we will open up to anybody who wants to take a walk around and see the facility. Everything will be open for you to do so. Going into this facility has been, as Melinda stated during her part of the presentation, a really big difference from the facilities that the drivers have had in the past. I was preparing tonight, came across some pictures of the old bus garage that we rented over on Old Waterloo Road there. One of the pictures we refer to as the skating rink that water would pool in the winter and create ice hazards there that were dangerous at best to cross there, ruts that made it difficult to get the buses in and out of that facility, subpar facilities for the drivers and staff that worked there. So this facility was very much needed. Now we've moved from that facility to this. Have a great facility here, safe and clean for the drivers. Offers a lot of advantages here. We have the on-site fueling tanks that save us a lot of time and money on fuel there, having that available on site. A safe, well-lit parking lot for the drivers, as Melinda mentioned. Also, drivers are coming in starting at 5:30 in the morning, so having safe, well-lit parking lots are a definite advantage for them. So again, I'd like to thank the board and the community for supporting this facility, and just state how pleased the staff are with being able to work out of here. Second item that I have this evening is an update in technology. The Emergency Connectivity Fund that was established through the last round of ESSER funds that was released. This is a grant for technology and connectivity. We were recently awarded last week $149,000 in funding through that grant, the majority of which, $131,000, will go toward the purchase of Chrome devices as we need to start replacing our fleet and finishing up our one-to-one implementation there. That'll be used with that, and the remaining $18,000 in funding there will be utilized to provide part of our fleet. This will not be our entire fleet, but part of our fleet with internet access on the buses, so that with those one-to-one devices, students that have longer routes, and that's how we chose which buses those would go on. The buses that have longer routes that students will be on, they will have internet access accessible on the buses, so going from home to school, that if they need to finish up a little bit of homework or something, or study for something, they'll have that connectivity on there as well.
I assume those would be used for athletic team trips or field trips if
Yeah.
they're available?
Yeah, those buses would be used, as I said, for the longer trips that, to maintain that access and in the longer timeframes that students are on the bus there. And the last item I have to update you, we talked last month to keep the board apprised on quarantine numbers there. Each week we publish on our website quarantines and cases on our COVID dashboard. And the update that I have here for you this evening is a review of the number of students that are quarantined pre-mask and post-mask implementation there, showing that before the mask mandate was put in place, we were averaging about 6.77 students per case were quarantined, with the maximum number of students per case being 30 in one instance there. After the mask mandate went into effect, that number has reduced 48.5% to now the new average being 3.48 students and a maximum of 13. This past week, the number showed a further reduction there, that we were down to 3.07, just about 3 students per case being quarantined there, with a max last week of 11 students quarantined in one case. So, any questions?
Just, I guess, if the mask mandate were relaxed, do you think the numbers would increase again, in your opinion?
I do feel we would go back to the pre-mandate numbers, yes, because that would increase the amount of space that we have to contact trace for each student, would double that amount of space. Right now, we're at a 3-foot radius with the mask on. Without, we go to a 6-foot radius there. So, and we're, in many areas, are not able to provide seating 6 foot or more apart, so would definitely increase the number of students there.
I would like to see if this goes down much farther to lift the mask mandate. I mean,
And I
As we
guess-
said, we'll continue to
Yeah.
keep the board apprised of the numbers each meeting and where we stand.
At some point in time, you gotta have a target,
Yeah.
what you're talking about, Mary Lou, and I would agree with that.
I don't know what the target would be, but if it keeps going down, and, I think that's what we need to do.
I would imagine most of our larger cases are from lunch.
We see a lot of contacts from lunch, some of the larger cases also with athletics as well.
And has staff time for contact tracing, hopefully that has decreased as well?
Has decreased some. I mean, we still have to do our due diligence in that, so, we identify a lot of contacts just the same as we would have before, but we're able to eliminate them as a contact once we see the distance there. So I would say some, but there's still, contact tracing is still very time intensive.
Thank you.
Just one other thing about the bus garage here. We were paying quite a bit of money over there too for that dump.
Yeah, that was not our facility, so we did have to pay rent there, yes.
Yeah, and it was significant, wasn't it?
Combined was, I think, just over 7,000 a month. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're paying for this here, and it's ours.
Right.
Yeah, 14 years it'll be ours,
Yeah.
completely paid for.
And it'll be, and it's so much better. We don't have drivers slipping on the ice and, okay, I just wanted to make that note.
Yeah. The other thing I'll tail back on is, I know there's been drivers that come in late at night, and we share a consortium between the Village of Lakemore and Springfield, and they'll come in, and a police officer will come in, the gate will open, and there's a school bus driver parking or getting ready to leave. And so there's police presence here when they're filling their cruisers, so it makes them feel a little bit more, so it's a very active facility.
yeah, that's a great security feature for us that partnership allows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 15, Superintendent's Report.
All right, I want to thank the class of 56 and all the folks that were involved in putting this plaque together to honor one of our past employees, Bob Dillon. I also want to thank Melinda Hamilton and all the folks involved with the Transportation Department and the fine work that they do to keep it all going. And these are numbers and situations that we look at every day, and I'm amazed at the work that they do to keep it all going, because like Melinda said, we're not able to find drivers, and we know that transporting our children is the safest thing to do, and she's able to make it work. Not always, but when we down a couple of routes, Melinda's out there and all the folks, I stop by and I see the folks that are just working hard, and makes you feel good when you got good people doing what's best for children. So I want to thank Melinda and all the drivers and our mechanics and for keeping it all safe. Let's talk about back in the classroom. This Friday marks the end of the first grading period in school, and each year your child's school offers parent-teacher conferences. And I encourage all parents to meet with your child's teacher, review your child's report card, and discuss progress with them. There's a lot of benefits for parents and teachers working together. Partnering with your child's teacher can have a powerful impact. When your child's teacher and you have a good relationship and you communicate regularly, it's easier to work together to help your child thrive in school. Working with the teacher is one of the best ways to support your child's learning. You share a common goal, providing the best educational experience for your child. The best tip for school success? Work closely with your child's teachers. November 19, which is coming up, is Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a federal holiday that honors all those who have served in the United States Armed Forces for their patriotism, love of the country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for common good. Veterans Day is a good time to remember that our freedom isn't guaranteed. It's protected by the men and women of our armed services. To those who secure our way of life, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sincere. Item number 16, items worthy of your note. October 21st, Schropp Intermediate Conferences, 3 to 7 p.m. October 22nd, end of first quarter. October 28th, high school, junior high conferences, 4 to 7 p.m. October 28th, Schropp Intermediate Conferences, 3 to 7 p.m. November 2nd, no school, staff in service, election day. November 4th, high school, junior high conferences, 4 to 7 p.m. November 4th, Spring Hill conferences, 4 to 8 p.m. November 11th, Spring Hill conferences, 4 to 8 p.m. November 16th, next regular Board of Education meeting, high school, junior high at 6 p.m. November 25th and 26th, Thanksgiving vacation, no school. November 30th, Conference Comp Day, no school. Item number 17, citizens' comments. Participants shall be limited to 5-minute durations. Do we have any citizens' comments this evening? All right. Seeing none, I will move on to item number 18, board members informal. Would any board members like to make comments this evening? Maybe I'll start this evening with you, Larry.
Well, we've got some elections coming up, and I would just encourage all of our people to get out and vote your heart and make sure that you do what's right for the schools.
Thank you. Mary Lou?
Yeah, first I want to, thank the Transportation Department for having us here. This is the first time I've been here, and I'm very impressed. It's really nice. I'm glad you have a good, safe place, really. Even this is better than it was when it was at the high school, much better. Also, I think it's Saturday, November the 6th, is the Springfield Township Women's Club Craft Show this year. And remember, they have that good vegetable soup and pies and carrot cake. And I think their vendors are, I think the show's almost full, I understand. And it's always a lot of talented people there. Also, if you're a Spectrum customer on channel 1023, you'll find the Lakemore Council meetings, the Springfield Township trustee meetings, the Portage Lakes Career Center Board of Education meetings, the Springfield Board of Education meetings also. It's on channel 1023. That's all I have.
Tonight, looking at Alumni Week, and I want to thank Michelle Hanna for really starting this off, and I said I'd keep updating and bringing alumni to the table. This month, Alexis Slider is a 2014 Springfield graduate. While at Springfield, Alexis competed on the basketball court, also on the softball field. She was a member of homecoming and member of choir. Her fondest memories of her years at Springfield were preparing for softball games with her closest friends, attending pep rallies, and attending school dances. After graduation, she became a police officer, spending 2 years in Lakemore, and then went to Massillon cities for her career, and that's where she's at now. The male alumni for this month is also a 2014 graduate, Corey Conant. Corey was an active member in band, National Honor Society, graduated top 25 of his class. Corey continued his education and graduated from the University of Akron in 2020 with a degree in chemical engineering with polymer specialization. He's currently working at Americhem as a development specialist. This is kind of interesting. Corey does research and development for new polymer-based compounds for several different industries, including medical, automotive, food, etc. Corey takes a concept, runs lab tests to determine feasibility in a manufacturing setting and the value in the product may bring to a customer. He completely develops the technology from a conceptual idea to actually selling it to the customers. Corey's advice to our current Spartans would be, get out of your comfort bubble. In the world we live in, especially at a young age, it is ludicrously easy to stay inside that bubble and stop your growth early. There will be times in your life you will have to be uncomfortable. The more you put yourself out there, the more you will grow as a person and learn to adapt to these situations. That's our alumni for the month of October.
First 9 weeks, I can't believe it's over already, so just a shout out to the teachers, good job. It's flown by, I can't believe it's been 9 weeks already. I really want to give a shout out to the bus drivers over the last 2-3 weeks. There's been a lot of obstacles to overcome between shutting down some routes, driving extra routes, as Melinda pointed out. On part of that, there was the 1 week we had 3 routes shut down, and one of those was my route, my kid's route. So I took them down to school, Schropp, on Monday morning, and I have gotten out of Cleveland after Browns games easier than that was. It was an absolute nightmare. And Tuesday morning, Dustin, Mike, our resource officer, Officer Tassone, was out there, and there was order, there was lines. The first line went, second line went. When you came in, you got back in the first line. It was much smoother, so I really thank you guys for that. And on top of that, I'm glad the bus routes are back in service. I know that it's an inconvenience for parents, myself included, but it was something that really didn't have a choice over with drivers out. It was something that had to be done, and we did it. We got through it. And knock on wood, I hope we don't have to do that again this year. It's not easy for anybody, so that's it.
Thank you, Chad. I also just want to thank the Transportation Department. I think there's a lot of things that we take for granted in our lives, and I think as parents, busing is probably one of them, until you don't have it. And I know bus drivers' jobs are very difficult, especially the last couple years, even more so. And it's hard to fill open positions. It's just a really difficult job, and I want to thank you. I don't want to take that for granted. We appreciate what you do in keeping our children safe and getting them to school. So, thank you very much. Thank you.
And Melinda, as you talked about earlier, the length of training, we do have drivers in training right now. It's just such a long process that it's not hire and start driving unless they already have experience, but I'm guessing a lot of the ones we're getting now do not.
We have 5 right now in training in hopes that one will be able to be ready for her test in November. And on the downside of that used to be, we're ready to go, you can call next week and we'll get you an appointment at the CDL. CDL test sites are now 2 months behind also. So once they come in, they got their test, we're calling to schedule an appointment, and it's about 2 months out also.
Wow,
So
okay.
it's everywhere, it's not just the bus garage, it's trying to get them,
Yep.
and training to get them to take their tests, to get through their tests.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 19, executive session. It is recommended that the board go into executive session at this time to discuss the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, licensee, or student, unless the employee, official, licensee, or student requests a public hearing and matters required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. May I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
And there will be no business afterwards, correct?
Correct, there will be no business, and I assume there'll be somewhere we can go and everybody can do their tours of the bus garage as you would wish.
You can't do both.
Mr. Lance,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Petrie,
Yes.
Mrs. Dodson,
Yes.
Mr. Hofer.
Yes.
All right, we're in executive session. I assume we can even delay a few minutes if any board members want a quick tour as well.
What'd you say, Neil?
If any board members would like a tour, you could take a quick tour before we go.
Nice job. Thanks, Melinda.